History is not a solid ground. It is a thin layer of ice over a deep, dark ocean. We skate upon it, confident in our timeline, secure in the belief that our rise from savagery to civilization was a slow, linear, and inevitable ascent. We tell ourselves that we started as simple apes, wandering the savannah. Then we learned to knapp flint. We learned to hunt, and after hundreds of thousands of years of primitive darkness, a light flickered on. We discovered agriculture, we built cities, and we invented writing. We call this the cradle of civilization. But what if we have forgotten something? What if the history books are missing the first chapter? There is a theory, whispered on the fringes of archaeology, and now shouting from the data of geology, that humanity is a species with amnesia, that we have forgotten a golden age that existed long before the Sumerians or the Egyptians, a time when our ancestors were not just surviving, but thriving. A time when they possessed knowledge of the stars, of architecture, and of the cycles of the cosmos that rivals our own. And we did not just forget this time, it was beaten out of us. It was erased by a cataclysm so violent, so sudden, and so complete that it traumatized the collective memory of our species, leaving behind only fractured myths of floods, of fire from the sky, and of gods who walked among men. For thousands of years, this was just a story, a ghost story we told ourselves to explain the unknown. But then we found the smoking gun. Buried beneath a nondescript hill in southern Turkey, we found a time capsule, a message in a bottle sent across 12,000 years of silence. It is not just a monument, it is a warning. And for the first time in human history, we finally have the science to decode it. This is the story of Gobekli Tepe. This is the story of the Vulture Stone. And this is the story of the day the world ended. To understand the magnitude of the mystery, we must travel to the Anatolian region of Turkey. The year is 1994. A German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt is wandering through a barren, dusty landscape. The locals call this place Gobekli Tepe, Potbelly Hill. It is a gentle, rounded mound that looks unnatural against the jagged limestone plateaus surrounding it. Previous surveys had dismissed the hill. In the 1960s, American archaeologists walked right over it, noting some broken flint and dismissing it as a medieval cemetery. But Schmidt saw something else. He saw flint chips, thousands of them. The ground was carpeted with the debris of tool-making on an industrial scale. He knew instantly that this was no medieval graveyard. This was something older, much older. Schmidt began to dig, and what he found would shatter the timeline of human history. Inches beneath the soil, he hit stone, not rough, piled rocks, but distinct, T-shaped pillars carved from massive limestone blocks. As his team excavated deeper, a pattern emerged. These weren't just random stones. They were arranged in perfect circles. Some of these pillars were nearly 20 feet tall and weighed up to 20 tons. But the true shock came when the carbon dating results arrived. The organic material found in the fill, the mortar that held the wall together, dated back to approximately 9,600 BC. Let that sink in. 9,600 BC. That is 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. It is 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. To the builders of Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe was already ancient history, a ruin as old to them as the pyramids are to us today.
This discovery was an academic earthquake. According to the standard model of history, humans in 9600 BC were in the pre-pottery Neolithic. We were supposed to be small bands of hunter-gatherers. We lived in huts made of sticks and animal hides. We had no metal tools. We had no wheel. We had no beasts of burden. We certainly did not have the social structure, the mathematics, or the logistical capacity to quarry 20-ton stones, transport them hundreds of meters without wheels, and erect them with precise geometric alignment. Building Göbekli Tepe would have required a workforce of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. It would have required years of dedicated labor. Who fed them? Hunter-gatherers live hand to mouth. They cannot store food for 1,000 workers. Who organized them? Who designed the blueprints? Schmidt realized he was looking at an impossibility. It was like finding a Boeing 747 in a medieval barn. It shouldn't be there. Unless we have been wrong about everything.
As the excavation continued, the nature of the pillars became clearer. They are T-shaped, but they are not abstract shapes. They are stylized humans. Carved in low relief on the sides of the pillars are arms, bending at the elbow and resting on a belt. They have fingers. They wear loincloths made of animal skins. But they have no faces. The crossbar of the T represents the head, but it is blank. They are the silent watchers, and they are covered in animals. Unlike the cave paintings of Lascaux or Altamira, which depict hunting scenes, the art of Göbekli Tepe is different. It is menacing. There are no scenes of daily life, no cooking, no hunting, no families. Instead, the limestone is crawling with predators, spiders, scorpions, vultures, snakes, boars, and lions. The creatures are not passive, they are aggressive. They are guarding something. For decades, the standard archaeological interpretation was simple. It's religion. When experts can't explain something, they call it a ritual. They labeled Gobekli Tepe a skull cult, or a temple to the dead. They argued that the animals were totems, spiritual guardians of different tribes who gathered here. But in recent years, a new generation of researchers began to look at the stones with fresh eyes. They stopped looking at them as art and started looking at them as data. The key to unlocking the code lies on one specific pillar in Enclosure D. It is officially cataloged as Pillar 43, but to those who know its secret, it is known as the Vulture Stone. Pillar 43 is different. It is chaotic, crowded, and specific. On its face, it depicts a large vulture holding a circle or orb on its wing. Below it, a scorpion. Around them, a crane, a snake, and a strange headless human figure. Dr. Martin Sweatman, a chemical engineer at the University of Edinburgh, looked at Pillar 43 and noticed a statistical anomaly. The arrangement of the figures didn't look like a random collection of animals. It looked like a snapshot. Specifically, it looked like the night sky.
To understand Dr. Sweatman's breakthrough, we need to understand a celestial mechanic known as the precession of the equinoxes. The Earth does not spin perfectly. It wobbles on its axis like a dying spinning top. This wobble is incredibly slow. It takes roughly 26,000 years to complete one full circle. Because of this wobble, the view of the stars from Earth changes over millennia. The constellations that rise behind the sun on the dawn of the spring equinox today are not the same as they were 2,000 years ago or 12,000 years ago. This phenomenon is the great clock of the universe. If you know the position of the stars relative to the horizon, you can calculate the exact date in history. Sweatman proposed a radical hypothesis. What if the animals on Pillar 43 are not earthly creatures, but celestial ones? What if the scorpion represents the constellation Scorpius? What if the vulture represents Cygnus? What if the crane represents Pisces? He fed the data into astronomical software called Stellarium, which allows us to rewind the positions of the stars thousands of years into the past. He searched for a time when these specific constellations would have been positioned in the sky exactly as they are carved on the stone. The probability of this arrangement happening by chance is infinitesimal. It is a lock with a millions-to-one combination. And as the software rewound the clock, passing the Roman Empire, passing the pyramids, passing the dawn of agriculture, the stars slowly drifted into alignment. The lock clicked open. The date was 10,950 BC. This date sent a shiver down the spine of the scientific community, because 10,950 BC is not just a random Tuesday in prehistory. It is a date that is burned into the geological record of our planet. It is the exact date of the onset of the Younger Dryas. The Vulture Stone is not a temple decoration. It is a date stamp. It is a memorial. The builders of Gobekli Tepe were pointing to a specific moment in time and saying, This is when it happened. But what happened? 12,800 years ago, the Earth was emerging from the Pleistocene Ice Age. The world was warming. The great ice sheets that covered North America and Europe were melting. Sea levels were stabilizing. Humans were spreading out, enjoying a Goldilocks period of abundance. And then, in a heartbeat, the world ended. Around 10,950 BC, global temperatures plummeted. In some parts of the northern hemisphere, the temperature dropped by 15 degrees Celsius, essentially overnight. The world was plunged back into a brutal deep freeze that would last for 1,200 years. This event, the Younger Dryas, has baffled climatologists for a century. What could cause the planet's climate to flip so violently, so fast? For years, the leading theory was a failure of ocean currents, but the evidence didn't quite fit. Then came the impact hypothesis. In 2007, a team of researchers began finding a mysterious layer in the soil, dating exactly to the boundary of the Younger Dryas. They call it the black mat. Inside this thin layer of dark soil, found across North America, Europe, and the Middle East, were the fingerprints of a cosmic disaster. They found nanodiamonds, microscopic diamonds that only form under the intense pressure of an explosion. They found melt glass, rock that had been liquefied by temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. And they found a massive spike in platinum, an element rare on Earth, but common in comets. The picture that emerged is terrifying. Around 10,950 BC, a massive comet, likely over 100 kilometers in diameter, entered our inner solar system. As it neared the sun, it began to fragment. The Earth didn't just get hit by a single rock. We ran into a shotgun blast of cosmic debris. Multiple fragments, some perhaps a kilometer wide, slammed into the North American ice cap. The energy released was equivalent to thousands of nuclear arsenals detonating at once. The impact didn't just shake the ground, it vaporized the ice. Instantly, millions of tons of water and steam were blasted into the atmosphere. This caused a global deluge. Sea levels rose dramatically.
The shockwave flattened forests for thousands of miles. The heat ignited wildfires that burned 10% of the planet's biomass. The smoke and ash blocked out the sun, creating a nuclear winter that killed the plants, then the herbivores, and then the predators. And in North America, the mysterious Clovis culture vanished from the archaeological record at exactly this time. The saber-toothed tigers, the woolly mammoths, the dire wolves, they were all wiped out. And in Turkey, on a hill overlooking the plains, a group of humans watched the sky turn to fire.
Let us return to Pillar 43. We have matched the animals to the stars. We have matched the date to the geological record. But there is one symbol we haven't discussed. At the bottom of the pillar, below the scorpion and the vulture, lies a headless man. In the context of the younger Dryas impact, the meaning becomes horrifyingly clear. The headless man does not represent a specific sacrifice. It represents mass death. It represents the catastrophic loss of human life that occurred when the comet struck. The circle held by the vulture? It is likely the sun, or perhaps the comet itself, bringing death from above. The creators of Göbekli Tepe were not worshipping these symbols, they were fearing them. This changes the entire context of the site. Gobekli Tepe is not a place of celebration, it is a place of trauma. Imagine the survivors. Their world has been destroyed. The climate has turned against them. The animals they hunted are dying. The sun is hidden behind a veil of ash. They are traumatized, starving, and terrified. And yet, in the midst of this apocalypse, they decide to do something impossible. They decide to build. Why? Why waste precious calories moving 20-ton stones when you should be looking for food? Because they had to remember. They realized that oral tradition was not enough. Stories change, memories fade, but stone endures. They needed to create a message that could not be erased by time. They needed to warn the future. They built Gobekli Tepe to track the stars, to monitor the sky, perhaps hoping to predict when the demon would return. It was an observatory born of fear. Why does this matter today? Why should we care about a stone carving from 12,000 years ago? Because the beast that attacked them is still out there. The comet that struck Earth in 10,950 BC is part of a system known as the Taurid meteor stream. It is a massive ribbon of cosmic debris that intersects Earth's orbit. Every year, in late October and early November, we pass through this stream. We see it as the Halloween fireballs, shooting stars that light up the autumn sky. But astronomers believe that hidden within this stream of dust are larger fragments, massive chunks of rock. The dark remnants of the original comet are still floating in the void. The Vulture Stone is not just a history book, it is a clock. It tells us that the danger is cyclical. The intersection of Earth's orbit with the dangerous part of the Taurid stream happens periodically. We have built our modern civilization on a foundation of sand. We assume the climate will remain stable. We assume the sky is safe. We are obsessed with our internal squabbles, our politics, our economies. We have forgotten to look up. The people of Göbekli Tepe saw their world destroyed in a single day.
They dedicated the last of their strength to carving a warning into the bedrock of the earth. They screamed across the millennia, trying to tell us that we are walking through a minefield. We have finally decoded their message. The question is no longer, what does the stone say? The question is, will we listen? Or will we, like them, become just another layer of ash in the soil, waiting to be discovered by the next civilization that rises from the dust? The Vulture Stone stands silent on the hill. The warning has been delivered. The rest is up to us.